Welcome to that brand new BAHM Studio production. Today we're going to be doing a little professional yap sesh. After seeing the Xbox showcase, they name dropped several interesting looking games that we want to talk about to see if 2024 really is, going to be the year that gaming comes back. Because, we took like a brief look at 2023, and just from, we've played plenty of video games over the course of 2023. It just didn't really seem as impactful. We could be wrong. If you come across this video and you come to think of a game that came out in 2023 was like, oh my god, this was groundbreaking. You can of course let us know in the comments. But from our standpoint right now, we can't really think of the top of our heads. What games really stood out in 2023. However, 2024 is sure to make an impression, starting off with Elden Ring Shadow Tree. I know Brian can speak to the heavens about that.
Now let's just get into one of the greatest gaming franchises of the 21st century. It's building off the backbone of the giants that we have, of Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro, right? Those are some of the more recent ones. Or even the remaster of Demon Souls. Elden Ring had big shoes to fill, and it also had to integrate that sort of combat and that sort of storytelling and gameplay into an open world design. Now, it does have its shortcomings. Elden Ring definitely isn't a perfect game, but considering how it's, completely broken through a lot of the barriers that the older games had in place, where even, for example, the jumping, where in Dark Souls 3, there was a single glitch you could do where you would sprint jump onto something. And you have Elden Ring where you're riding your horse, jumping from place to place, falling 20 stories and still not dying. And you get into a DLC like this where everyone's question was, okay, how are they going to balance things? People have had, thousands of hours of game time, new game plus whatever. Insane builds. And we're thinking, okay, well, isn't everyone just going to completely obliterate the DLC and go on with their day? And the developers have even let everyone know in advance that they've planned around that and had a damage system built in to equalize out a lot of the players. So it's not so much of a unfair pub stomp, run through and kill everything, have a nice day fest. It's more akin to Sekiro, where you have items that kind of cap out your damage at certain points, or act as a built-in limiter to help the players have a more fair experience and something that's more in line with what the developers intended. Now, I can make a whole 30-minute video just about the DLC itself, but it's genuinely seeming like an amazing follow-up to an already great base game. And I hope, we at least get a second one before the next game in the franchise, really gets released.
Yeah, I can't say much. I beat Margaret with the hobo build, so that's about the peak of my accomplishments when it comes to Elden Ring, so I can't really say much on it. So next up, we do have the trailer for the First Descendant. Now, this is a game that we personally were able to play in a open beta, and I have honestly nothing but good things to say about it. There are moments where it kind of seemed a little bit dull. However, what I really liked about the game that it was a nice mesh between a concept of Destiny 2 with gameplay that kind of did feel like almost like Division-esque, where you have your third-person shooter. One thing that I honestly feel that is a slept-on trait about the game is how responsive and how good it felt to actually shoot the gun. And I didn't realize that was something that I would personally ever look for in a game until I played the First Descendant, which is very interesting. I don't know, Brian, if you remember me making that point where it's I would shoot a gun and it's whoa, it felt like I was shooting a gun. You know what I mean?
No, definitely one thing that I felt they really did, and I mean, you can even see it in the trailer, they did well, is the variety between the characters. Now, this doesn't have a, a Rainbow Six roster where you have 100 different ops in there to play as, right? Well, I don't even think they still reached that in Rainbow yet. But even in the somewhat limited roster that we had in the game, you had your variety of characters. Of course, you had, your general, female character that looks nice, right? And I think she had a bunny suit or something, whatever.
Fan service?
Yeah, the fan service. But you had the mix of different male characters, like some edgy Deadshot character, the knight in shining armor guy. You had even a poison character that was a female that had a very impressive kit. It's unique designs that each of them had, and it was something where it's regardless of whatever playstyle you had, you had a character that catered to it. And if you cared about the gunplay, the guns were good. You know, there's a lot of games where it feels like you're shooting a bunch of pea shooters, a division. You have a lot of guns where you're shooting like a little beep, 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 and you have a random fodder enemy that tanks everything. I mean, even look at Destiny 2 Grandmaster Nightfalls. It is absolutely hilarious. You know, the level of just boring shoot at something 50,000 times from peeking behind cover until it dies that you have in a lot of these other games. And at least in the gameplay that we had in First Descendant, it felt better, more responsive, higher peaks, to say the least.
Yeah, it was nothing short of impressive, and it kept us, you know, constantly waiting for a release date. And, you know, they just gave us a release date, I believe, of July 2nd, I believe I was told, or I saw somewhere online. I mean, that has to be confirmed. But it was nothing short of just a good gameplay experience that had us, like, eager to play more. And that's what I felt was very important. You know, the gameplay trailer was just, you know, your average, hey, you know, let's hype up our game with a movie-esque trailer. However, because we were able to get personal experience with the game, you know, I'm fine with it. Next up on the list, we have Killer Bean. Now, let me tell you, if this game doesn't get Game of the Year, you know, I say that non-seriously, but, you know, I was just taking a look at the trailer with Brian. First of all, if you don't know what Killer Bean is, you need to go to YouTube and watch the Killer Bean movie. Absolutely hilarious watch, and that's all I will say about it. Now you have, I believe, is the creator of the Killer Bean movie. I'm not sure. It was the official YouTube channel for Killer Bean that came out and said that they are making a video game on this. And it will be a roguelite, I believe a roguelite gameplay of Killer Bean, which looked, to me, nothing short of amazing. You know, you have your gunplay, you have melee combat, you have explosions, you have slow-mo. You know, what more can you ask for a game where it's very simple? You spawn in, you have something procedurally generated, you have completely random elements, and you just go out and you just kill shit for fun. You know, I don't know what else you could ask for in a fun game like Killer Bean.
Yeah, it's a game that doesn't take itself serious, which, you know, is definitely something that I feel like a lot of games are missing, where it heavily leans into what the original movie was. And the original movie was a funny joke of just a character who went out and was killing things and was just an unstoppable, you know, machine of death. And whenever you see a gameplay trailer from this game, that's exactly how it makes you feel. You know, you have the ability to see through walls. You have these slow motion clips, so you're just going by and blasting everybody across the screen. You have these executions where it's just you picking up a dude and slamming him on the floor. You have the main character catching a grenade and dunking that shit on his enemies.
That was absolutely beautiful. We went crazy. You know, there was huge mechs where you're on a jet ski you're trying to escape from. You know, you're in your cool ass black open top whip. You know, you go do a drive by, then you jump out the whip, slow-mo dive, kill a group of people. You know, it's nothing short of amazing. Like Brian said, you know, it's a game that doesn't take itself seriously, and that's the beauty of it. You know, this is what gaming should be. You know, is where you put passion to a game, you have a project, you have an idea, you put passion into it, and guess what? I guarantee you this game is going to sell. Whatever the price point is, unless it's not $70. I don't think anybody's going to drop $70 on it. But, you know, whatever the game ends up being priced, you know, realistically, I could see like a $30, $40 price point.
I think that's fair. You know, a roguelike game, I feel, is definitely going to be a more niche game than, you know, your average COD that comes out, right? It's a game that, you know, some people take a problem to the fact that, like, oh, if I die, all my progress got lost. It's a temporary run. They don't feel rewarded. Which, you know, that's a whole separate argument. But for the fans of, you know, roguelike games, or even people that haven't played a roguelike game that are looking for something that's going to be less innately challenging, something like this, where it is more casual in nature, you know, not your Hades or not your Slay the Spire, or even your Risk of Rain kind of gameplay. It's something very simplistic, very, you know, funny looking, where you're playing as a bean in an outfit, going around gunning down a bunch of other beans, part of a mafia.
Yeah, so that was Killer Bean. So, all right. So next up on our list, we have Flintlock. So at first glance, we thought it was going to be just like another generic Souls-like game. But as we continue to watch the trailer, it actually proved to be a little bit more than that. It seemed like some sort of blend between like a hack and slash and a Souls-like. Well, more leaning towards a hack and slash, which honestly I am a fan of. You know, it had a pretty good looking gameplay mechanics. You know, your standard melee combat with weapons. You know, you had access to Flintlock. I think more like an explosive blunderbuss. You had some sort of kind of powers with the it was like a purple fox.
Yeah, the
purple
fox.
fox, where he just looks at the main character and says like, I'm something of a god, and starts floating. So you have different gameplay elements there, but overall it looked like a pretty interesting game that we would like to get our hands on.
Definitely feeling like it's one of those ones where you shouldn't pre-order. There are certain games where I say, just slam your card on the table, put your money up. It's gonna come out. It's gonna be good. You're gonna have a great time, right? And there are games like Flintlock where I feel we don't have enough of a ground to stand on. Where it definitely is one to keep your eye on, but not one to keep your wallet anywhere near until the game comes out. When the game comes out and we have some, first impressions, we get our hands on it, have some first impressions, then we can really, give a solid recommendation one way or the other. But for now, they can come up with a good trailer that, gets you kind of excited for the game, shows a little bit of gameplay, but it's not enough for us to, really go hard in one direction. If anything, it's kind of funny. We made jokes about how it's somewhat similar to Evil West, which, is an amazing game on its own. Absolutely hilarious gameplay.
Tune into the Evil West playlist. BAHM Studio.
Link in the description. Now, out of all the games that we saw in all the trailers, this was one that ranked somewhere in the middle, where depending on how they continue to market this game and depending on that day one release, it'll swing one way or the other. So Flintlock is definitely one to keep an eye on, but watch which way it turns.
Next up on the list, we have Star Wars Outlaws, my beloved Star Wars. What can you say? Off rip, that the game is being made by Ubisoft, so that's already like danger signs everywhere. I showed Brian the trailer for the game, and it's like, it looks very interesting, but it's scary at the same time because of who Ubisoft is. It's gonna be a game that's gonna be hit or miss. And that's all we know so far. They showed gameplay of your standard shooting your enemies, escaping an enemy chase, getting into a ship. They showed some space combat, but that's all. Like we've seen a glimpse of what the game could potentially be. And keep in mind, we're seeing what Ubisoft wants us to see. So this could be just straight just trying to hype the game up, but there's not enough to say. From what I've seen on social media, everybody seems to be a little bit hesitant about the game. Everybody thinks the game's gonna flop because of what Ubisoft is known to be. So all you can really do is hope. Hope that the game turns out to be better than what it looks like. But it doesn't seem too promising.
Kind of sad to watch trailers. It's funny. You see trailers where the trailer introduces gameplay, and the person who's playing is absolutely terrible. Like,
oh my
they
God.
shoot the wall, they aim at the floor, they turn their camera around at a 1 degree per minute speed. It just kind of takes away from the enjoyment of any sort of gameplay trailer, where the gameplay is just so lackluster, and it's not even the fault of the game; it's the fault of the actual person playing it. When you're showing a game, when people commentate a game, they commentate at the highest level. They show high-level gameplay, action-packed things. And when you see the trailer where the person playing is missing their shots, taking 30 seconds to line up a single bullet, or hits somebody in the head, and then the NPC keeps running at them without even flinching, that really pulls me away from the gameplay. Where I'm like, what the hell am I watching?
You know why that is, though, right? If they're not putting out, and I talked about this before, you already know the game's a little bit shaky when they come out with a trailer and it's just pure cinematics, where it's like, what are we being introduced here? Are we being introduced with a game, or are we being introduced with a movie? This isn't cinema. You don't have to put out a movie trailer. Let's see some gameplay. If you're dropping a video that shows, 25 minutes of gameplay, let me see 25 minutes of somebody actually playing the game. You know what I mean? So it really seems like you're just trying to drag out the gameplay to make it look more intense. And, wow, look at our visuals, look at our graphics. But the graphics don't mean anything if the gameplay doesn't back it up. Up next, we have yet another Black Ops. It's quite insane to me that we made it to Black Ops 6. And so I watched the Xbox showcase where they did the direct of Black Ops 6. And I can't sit here and say that I'm not interested. I grew up playing the Call of Duty campaigns as a kid, and I can't sit here and tell you that those campaigns were amazing. That was peak gameplay right there. Recently you had the final installment of the Modern Warfare series, where the Modern Warfare 3 campaign was maybe, I want to say, I didn't buy the game, and I was very hesitant on buying the game. And turns out that you were able to watch the full campaign cinematics in under, I don't know, it was like an hour or two, which was insane.
Pathetic.
The campaign was so short, and with your already short campaign, you had these missions in the campaign that were labeled as weapons-free missions, which ended up playing like Warzone. If I'm going to the Call of Duty campaign, I'm not here to play your garbage. I want to play what is to be a cinematic, action-packed experience of a Call of Duty campaign. And that's what the franchise is known for. They're absolutely standout campaigns that stick with you. That's one thing where you compare games like Call of Duty and Battlefield. You can always compare their multiplayer experiences. I was always leaning towards Battlefield for the multiplayer experience. But when it came to campaigns, Call of Duty's campaigns always stood out. So when you have a campaign that doesn't stick out like that, it's insane. Now, going back to Black Ops 6, they actually made a thorough campaign, as they say. And it's supposed to take place right after Black Ops 2. So you see Frank Woods in a wheelchair, where he gets a new position in the CIA or whatever. I'm not going to talk too much about the specifics about the campaign. But all we know is there's a campaign. It comes right after Black Ops 2. Realistically, that should have been after Black Ops 2. I don't know, Black Ops 3. I don't know what that campaign was about. Black Ops 4 didn't even have a campaign. Then you have the quote-unquote Black Ops 5, which is Cold War. And now we're here at 6. So other than the campaign that we know that we're getting, they showed off some multiplayer gameplay. A couple interesting things. They have Omni movement, where now you can dive around corners in different directions. So like if you're sprinting to the right, you can like dive like you're in an action movie, like as if it was slow-mo, like you're diving into like the bartender area. You start shooting the fucking enemies, and then you land under the bar table.
Stealing it from Killer Bean.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll show exactly what we're talking about here because I'm doing the motions in real life, but obviously you guys can't see it. So you have, capability of diving in any direction. You can sprint in any direction, so you can actually backpedal. You can, strafe left and right while sprinting, which seems pretty cool. They said that they're bringing back round-based zombies. And that's the bulk of it. They put a lot of emphasis on talking about their campaign, which I don't know why you would do. You want to let your player base, just play the campaign. Like, don't overhype it. Because if you overhype it, people are going to play and they're going to be like, damn, this shit's ass. So you don't really want to do that. But, I mean, that's about the bulk that I have to talk about. I don't know what you thought, your initial thoughts on.
I'm so burnt out from COD games. It has just been an endless cycle of, I feel like lackluster gameplay. Warzone 2, all that shit. I'm just so burnt out from it, man. They could have said it was Black Ops 12 coming out, and I've been like, oh shit, we made it. I'm coming from a perspective where I did not grow up and get to be a full grown adult and watch all these games come out. As I've matured, that's where all these games started coming out, especially during COVID, where you had a whole bunch of kids sitting on them couches or beds playing Warzone and that. I feel I spent a decent chunk of time doing that, and at this point, a few years after COVID, I'm kind of done with it. I'll play a couple hours, but to get me to even put 100 hours into a COD game at this point is more than a stretch.
And that all comes from, when the Battle Royale series began. You have Fortnite, you had Apex, then Call of Duty made their Warzone, but the problem was they now began to tailor their Call of Duty games around Warzone. And that's kind of where I believe that the fall of Call of Duty began. Especially when you have, now what they have is they don't even have, the Black Ops 6 is listed as DLC now. Because of the Call of Duty headquarters. I don't know if you've seen it. But you can now go into Call of Duty headquarters, and now you can access any of the Call of Duty games. Granted, I don't know why the hell they have a Call of Duty headquarters in the first place, because I don't know who they think has the space to have, say, for example, Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops, whatever, downloaded at the same time. You're probably going to have one of those games installed, but you can access everything from the Call of Duty headquarters. Now, that lets them, have their same engine that they run everything on, and they don't have to make a new game. They just have to come out with a couple new gameplay mechanics, maybe touch up the graphics, but they essentially could just make a quote-unquote DLC, but charge $70 for Call of Duty headquarters. That's what it is, but that's enough on Call of Duty. Mm-hmm. Next, we have what's going to save gaming. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. My oh my. This game is based off of the Budokai Tenkaichi series. I grew up playing Budokai Tenkaichi 3 and on the Wii as well. And my oh my, may I tell you that this is going to be Game of the Year. I don't care. I don't care who you are. Elden Ring DLC is coming out. DLC is exempted from Game of the Year. But this game right here is going to be Game of the Year. The trailers looked absolutely magnificent. When I tell you that this is 100% biased commentary, this is 100% biased. This will be Game of the Year. And what they showed in all their trailers, they show pure gameplay. You're not being fooled here. They even put out a full fight between Goku and Vegeta. Absolutely stunning graphics, stunning gameplay, bringing back old mechanics such as the weave mechanics and stuff like that. They're bringing fusions. The roster list is absolutely phenomenal. They're bringing Super. Apparently, they're going to be putting in a roster list for Dragon Ball Superhero. Whatever characters were in that movie. And on top of that, they're going to be putting in characters from Dragon Ball Daima, which has not even released yet. But apparently there's going to be a roster there. I don't know if there's going to be Dragon Ball GT. I really hope there's going to be GT, because that means Super Saiyan 4 Goku, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. You got Baby Vegeta. Who else? You got Omega Shenron. You have Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Absolutely insane fusion.
Super 17. You can't forget about
Super 17.
Golden Grade 8.
The possibilities are endless when it comes to this. And when I tell you, when they released this statement about the game, I just went monkey mode. I just went insane. They're saying that now you can play the Dragon Ball storyline, but now you can create your own outcome. I don't know how in-depth this is going to be. It doesn't matter how in-depth it is, but the more depth there is to it, the better it becomes because of the sheer changes you can make to the Dragon Ball storyline. But for example, what they showed us was, if you haven't seen this already, you're going to hear it from us somehow. In the fight between Goku and Grade Up Vegeta, Goku goes Super Saiyan. You have Trunks not dying to Cell and joining Vegeta in a Final Flash attempt against Cell. You have... What else did they have? I can't even... I'm blanking on this now.
You have Krillin going Super Saiyan. He grows his hair back.
People are already talking about wanting to, say, for example, make a future Gohan live and be able to kill the androids. But nonetheless, on that tangent, you can create your own storyline on these crossroads, and you could post them online for other people to see. So I believe that the fact that you can post them online means that there should be endless possibilities to this. You can come up with the most outrageous outcome in the Dragon Ball storyline, and that you could post it online for people to see. That tells me that there's going to be a lot of customizability in this feature.
You know, one thing which is it's funny as any sort of anime fan in the past few years, we've had a lot of misses. You know, you got that My Hero Academia game, that Jujutsu Kaisen game, that One Piece game,
The Naruto game.
oh my
and
god,
I'm pretty sure
so ass.
the Demon Slayer game. I'm pretty sure the Jujutsu Kaisen, Naruto, and Demon Slayer, I think they're just all reskins of each other. I'm pretty sure.
They're all garbage. I mean, like, you could just call a spade a spade. We've had so many misses in recent anime games that Dragon Ball Sparking is like a breath of fresh air around here. Like, it is mind-boggling that you could have so many back-to-back misses, and then Dragon Ball comes through and just sweeps. And you know, that's the difference between a game that's made for money purposes, right? Like Skull and Bones, Suicide Squad, all those pieces of trash, where it's made to capitalize off of fan goodwill and say, okay, the fans are gonna buy this shit, and even though it's garbage, they're gonna buy it and eat that shit up, and we're gonna make profit. And then you have a game that is building itself from the ground up for a long-standing, years of replayability type of setup here, which, especially when it comes to making your own storylines and posting them online, is going to drive player retention up. You know, having these alternate storylines is going to make it so players have a reason to replay the game and to say, okay, let me do the storyline one more time, but I'm going to try this. Or even having multiple save files if they can, to see which way they can turn their alternate storylines at even further crossroads after they already started branching off 1, 2, or 3 times. You know, of course, depending on the limits. But the fact that they're even allowing for that to be built in from the start shows that they do care about this game and they want it to be long-standing. Because they could have just not added any of those features and the game would still be good. But they did it out of free will. Not a DLC, nothing like that. Just part of the game. And that is a difference maker between a Sparking Zero and any of those other ones. And frankly, the fact that we had so many failures, you know, kind of brings more anxiety to you when you hear, oh shit, a Dragon Ball game's in development. I hope it doesn't end out like any of those. But then you realize, no, it's a Dragon Ball game. There's no shot they fumbled this. And that's exactly what we see here in every single trailer and every single news release that comes out. Nothing but good things.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that they have literally a telltale system built into a fighting game. You know, that's just unreal to me. But yeah, Sparking Zero, this is gonna be game of the year. You know, I'm gonna pre-order it. I have no regrets. The last time I pre-ordered a game was Battlefield 2042, and I used my COVID stimulus money on that. And look at how that turned out. You know, that was a terrible game. I don't care what you say about it now. You know, I'm a Battlefield fan. That game was trying to copy Call of Duty, but that's another tangent. I will be pre-ordering a game for the first time since like 2019, or I think it was 2019 or 2020 when Battlefield came out. So hands down, I'll put my money down. You know, I have my full faith in Sparking Zero. After talking about all the games that are coming out 2024 and hopefully early 2025, you know, final note I think I want to say, and I remember watching a video on this. A very important thing to look for when you have these gameplay trailers is whether or not you're going to see actual gameplay, you know. And you had multiple actual game developer professionals that were part of these professional teams, where they were either part of the advertising, if they were part of the actual game developing side. They have come out and actually said that if your game does not, if your trailer does not have gameplay, the game is most likely going to be ass, because usually those trailers come out soon-ish, around the time of release. You know, Xbox Showcase is a little bit different because, you know, they want to hype up over time. But if you have a deadline that's coming up soon and your trailer doesn't have gameplay, more likely than not, the game's going to be ass because they don't have actual gameplay to show. And they're just showing cinematics. So gameplay is always a very important thing to look for in these trailers. And besides, I don't understand why these game companies are coming out with movie-like cinematic trailers for a game. You know, if you want to hype up a game, show them your gameplay. Show how the game is going to run. Because if it looks good, Sparking Zero, people are going to talk about it. They're going to look forward to playing this game. They're going to pre-order. Sparking Zero had a $200 collector's edition that include like a Daima set, where it's like kind of like a statue, like Broly versus UI Goku, It's a $200 collector set, and that's already sold out. I'm pretty sure they started pre-orders yesterday.
Insane.
Like, almost everything is sold out, I'm pretty
Insane.
sure. So it's like, if you show gameplay, people are going, and it's good, people are going to want to play your game.
Some game developers are taking full advantage of, and they definitely should, are these betas, these early accesses. You know, there's nothing greater to build up hype from your game than for people to get a taste of it and just only want more. You know, you have just recently this year, Power World, First Descendant, and Hades 2. Just a couple games that have recently had some early access that, you know, really went and built up hype for the actual full release. Where you see a game developer that is confident in their game is a game developer who comes out with some early access alpha beta tests that, you know, they believe in their game being strong enough as is to allow the normal community to come out and make reviews on it, but they also know that it is not finished, and they take these times to really go and hone in on any weak points that they may not have noticed or any strong points that they want to lean into a little bit further in anticipation of that full release. And games that do not do any sort of open betas or any sort of alphas, or, you know, don't even release a gameplay trailer, those are games that you definitely have to keep a close eye on, where you're like, hold on. What am I actually getting myself into? There are some companies that could definitely get away with it without a second thought. You know, if Elden Ring 2 came out and they didn't release a single damn thing about it other than just said, this shit's going to cost you $70, take my money immediately. Or, you know, Doom. They don't have to release anything further other than, here you go, it's going to release on this day, here's the price tag, and I'll buy it. But those are games that have built up a lot of goodwill within the community, and people are extremely confident in just off of high quality trailers. And there really is not that much harm in, let's say, waiting even 3 days after a game releases for some early opinions before putting your money down. Because those 3 days could be the difference between plus or minus $60. For some people, that money may be very significant for them. You know, if you don't have a lot of money to spend on leisure activities such as gaming, it is 100% worth it to wait for every single game before you spend any amount of money on it.
Especially these days with the amount of sales that come out. Oh my god, these AAA titles are coming out with sales with like within 3 months of release, which used to be like you would never see these kinds of things as a kid. You know, if a big title game came out as a kid, you would never see a sale come out 3 months or even within the year that it came out. You know, it was impossible to get a sale on these games because guess what? Back then they made the games good. You know, these days you're starting to see crazy sales, like 50% off and plus on crazy big titles because guess what? They didn't deliver, so they're just trying to sell off copies. You know, Anthem completely flopped. And I'm pretty sure till this day they had that game on sale for $3. But like I'm pretty sure they don't even support the servers anymore.
It's actually kind of pathetic. But that's a game that Anthem as a specific example is a game that had no prior. Like if we had Anthem 1 be amazingly successful and then Anthem 2 came out and died immediately, I'd say that's different. Anthem on its own had a marketing team that I feel to this day had some of the best, like this is the LeBron of marketing teams. Oh my god, they did their job. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, they did their job. Those guys, there is no blame for any of the guys that went and marketed that game, advertised that game, went to sell that game. They did what they were supposed to do. Now the motherfuckers that made the back end shit, the actual game itself, those motherfuckers go whip them. Lock them up.
No, I'll never forget. Brian, he had bought, because we do game sharing. He bought Anthem for us to play as like a birthday gift for me. He goes over to his dad's house for the weekend. By the time he came back, our entire friend group had already quit playing Anthem. And he comes out and is like, "What happened?
I didn't play the game a single time. I didn't even get 1 hour of game time. And everybody I had personally known quit the game. Like, how does a game die that fast? We were teenagers. You couldn't even hold our attention span. And this was before TikTok, before COVID. You couldn't hold attention spans back then? Oh my god. What the fuck?
Like, that was terrible. But, you know, that concludes that. You know, thank you guys for tuning into this little yap sesh. You know, the era of gaming for 2024, you know, it looks bright. You know, I'm looking at it with positive ideas, with a positive outlook, I should say. You know, I think gaming is in good hands. You know, we've been complaining a lot that it's like, damn, gaming has died. You know, all the games are boring these days. But recently, we've been, you know, reaching out to like a different style of games. You know, we've gone away from, you know, your COD, your Fortnite, any battle royale really, and we started playing other like co-op games. You know, we've been hooked on Risk of Rain, roguelike games in general, games that are actually going to be fun within your friend group. So if you're stuck in that loop, you know, get out of that loop quick. But yeah, appreciate you guys for tuning into the Yap Sesh. You know, we can call it BAHM Talks. Thank you for joining us for BAHM Talks, that brand new. And we'll see you on the next video. Peace.